Hello my little beauties, it's David Connolly here, the Web Developer Extraordinaire. Somebody left a comment I noticed in a podcast on another channel saying, the thing that put me off was the guy's ego. Somebody thinks I have a big ego. Let me just tell you, the Web Developer Extraordinaire has no ego. I tried to find an ego, but I could not find one that was good enough for the Web Developer Extraordinaire. Alright, we're going to be talking about benchmarks. Now, just to be clear, I don't think that we are going to make PHP great again by talking about benchmarks. To me, this is all just a little bit of fun, and I have not carried out any benchmark tests. I don't plan on doing it, but I'm delighted for other people to do that. Nevertheless, on a podcast just the other day, I'll leave a link in the description, 3 people decided to ridicule the Trongate framework. And among their accusations were things like, he, meaning me, spelt lumen incorrectly when he published his benchmarks. And if I heard properly, they said something along the lines of Trongate being, I think it might have been 8 times faster than lumen. And this managed to get a little giggle. So, I just wanted to set the record straight. I did not misspell lumen. That's lumen, the micro framework. At least I did not misspell lumen when I published my benchmarks. That's because there is no my benchmarks. The Web Developer Extraordinaire has not been involved in, carried out, or in any way participated in any benchmarks tests. You see, I always knew in the back of my mind that it would only be a matter of time before other people started doing tests. And I knew that when that day came, Trongate would demolish every other leading PHP framework. Well, the results have started to come in. Not my results. So far, I'm aware of, I think, 2 people who have performed tests, and the results are staggering. I was thinking of a way to visualize this that would be meaningful for you. And the best and most meaningful visualization I can give you is this. If we think about vehicles, Laravel can be compared to a Yugo. You probably don't remember the Yugo. It was out in the 80s, you saw them around, usually. They're now discontinued, and it's one of the worst cars that was ever made. Now, if you compare Trongate to a Yugo, we're talking just in terms of speed, performance, benchmarks. What do you think Trongate is? Take a guess. Touch the screen. Touch the screen. I can feel it. Come on. Okay, thank you very much. Somebody just said a Lamborghini. Anyone else? Oh, Bugatti. Nice, nice. Okay, somebody thinks Trongate's a Ferrari. Oh, it's a Porsche. Interesting. Well, if we are using vehicles as the comparison, I can tell you that I've had the calculator out. And as long as I haven't made any sort of mistake, I can tell you exclusively that if Laravel is a Yugo, Trongate is an F-15 fighter jet. That's the difference that we're talking about. And in this very video, I'm going to tell you how that's achieved, and I'm going to tell you how to build a framework that's even faster. But there's something else before we go into that. One of the guys who had submitted the benchmarks had said to me, you know, these benchmarks for Trongate are a fully loaded installation of the framework, which means sessions are enabled. There's a database being connected. Every single helper is being made available, such as the form helper and so on. It's not like CodeIgniter where it came with everything disabled. No. Everything is enabled. And the guy who did the benchmark said to me, you know, I think if I disable this, and this, I can get it going even faster. I said, how faster? He gave me how much faster. He gave me the number. And again, I got my little calculator out. And this time, we were no longer in an F-15 fighter jet. This time, we're in a Lockheed Martin. This is the difference. If you want to talk about stripped down frameworks, and you might as well make that car blue or black and put a Symphony logo on it. It's the same story. Now, the guys in the podcast said a couple of things that are interesting that I want to talk about. The first thing is, they commented on how Trongate, apparently somebody had said it was 8 times faster than Lumen. And the guy's response to this was, he spelled Lumen wrong. Well, I did not spell Lumen wrong because it's not my report. But doesn't it say a whole lot about the state of the PHP community when somebody who runs a podcast, along with 2 other people, see something emerging that blows the competition away? We're not talking about a close race here, right? This is a different league. And instead of authenticating the benchmarks, instead of saying, how's that achieved? Instead of saying, that's interesting, instead of saying, that's kind of okay, but maybe doesn't affect sites if you use caching, who knows what? The only thing that they could say is they spelled the word Lumen incorrectly. They have nothing. I watched that podcast from start to finish. It was only about a 5-minute section. They spoke about Trongate. Every single observation that they made and every comment that they made was garbage. They falsely claimed that I had built an app that installs updates without people's permission. That's ridiculous. What happens is the Trongate desktop app reads the license file on the framework. If there's a mismatch, it says, hey, there's a new version of the framework. It then gives you 3 options. First option, update at the click of a button. Second option, ignore the new stuff. Third version, click here, view the changelog, and make an informed decision. That's how it works. And my usage of the phrase industry first is absolutely valid. I love the phrase industry first. I believe there are about 12 industry firsts with the Trongate framework. Somebody said on the podcast, that's not an industry first. Windows does that. Folks, to go back to the car analogy, that's like saying, hey man, that's not the fastest car in the world. The International Space Station does 17,000 miles an hour. Now I know that there are a lot of PHP developers who make the schoolboy error of confusing frameworks with operating systems. But I can assure you, I'm well aware of the fact that Windows and a couple of other operating systems have automatic updates going on. I'm speaking about PHP frameworks. Give me the name of the framework that reads the license file, checks the number, automatically does an update in about usually less than 5 seconds. No command line, no composer.far, no YAMLs, none of that bullshit. What is the name of that framework? I'd love to know. My friends, if we're talking about the web development industry, do you hear me? Or as I like to call it, my industry. As far as that goes, it's an industry first. And there's a whole bunch of other industry firsts coming up when we launch this. I'm just actually working on the docs, and you'll see this all coming out very soon. Now, the other thing that they mentioned that was interesting was Falcon. They said in the podcast, oh, I can see that he dared not put it against Falcon. Well, when it comes to speed, there's different ways of measuring speed. There's different types of speed, right? One of the types of speed is productivity. How quickly can you actually build an app? Now, I've already posted a video on YouTube where I went side by side with Falcon, split screen, and with a very early prototype of Trongate, I managed to code ridiculously faster than the guy doing the Falcon demo. So on the productivity scale, it's a foregone conclusion. I hate to lay it on you, but it's a foregone conclusion. And that was unfinished, by the way. We've now improved the framework, and I think that we're going to be ridiculously more productive. Ridiculously. Anyway. But as far as benchmarks go, I think Trongate is going to be faster than Falcon. I haven't done the test. I wouldn't even know how to do the test. But I'm confident that Trongate will be faster than Falcon. And I'll tell you why that's the case technically. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I feel a bit like somebody who has a coach who's been training a boxer. I'm about to put this boxer into the ring, and I'm saying, yeah, I think my man's going to win, you know. And I think Trongate will be faster than Falcon. Before I go into that, let me just quickly say I really don't know much about Falcon. And of all of the PHP frameworks, it's the one that I respect the most. Because it does bring something to the table that the others don't have. And I think that whatever Falcon does, it appears to be technically impressive. So I'm not bad-mouthing Falcon or anything. In fact, the very fact that I'm speaking about Falcon like this is kind of a thing because I actually respect the framework, you know. But even though I respect the framework, I think that Trongate is going to be faster. So 2 reasons why. First of all, I remember seeing a YouTube video with a guy using CodeIgniter 3 against Falcon. And CodeIgniter 3 was faster. Now, I haven't looked lately. There's a thing I put on the site here. If you compare Trongate with CodeIgniter 3, okay, Trongate is 10 times faster, roughly, than CodeIgniter 3. This is the thing that was submitted, and let's not fix any spelling mistakes, by the way. So Trongate is about 10 times faster than CodeIgniter 3. And that's fully loaded, by the way. When you look at the various tests of Falcon going up against other frameworks, I'm not seeing those types of gaps. So I am pretty confident for that reason. But the other reason why, and this is where I'm going to go into how Trongate's so fast. I'm delighted to tell you how I did this. Is because Trongate has been built in a manner that you've probably never seen before. It uses an architecture, and I'll bring up the documentation here for you. I hope you can see the screen. I haven't actually released any of this yet, but if I just show you the thing here, we have a unique architecture. Looks a wee bit like this. I call this hierarchical assets hierarchical assets views controllers. It's something like this. And basically what it means is that everything is modular. Completely modular. There's no vendor autoload, there's no PSR, there's no round trips. Everything is incredibly direct. The class loading system, the foundational kind of bootstrapping system for Trongate, was actually not entirely written by me. A significant proportion of that was written by a developer that you may have heard of by the name of Brad Traversy. Some of you are a bit surprised, and well, now you know. Turns out that he's not just a great YouTuber, he's also an excellent PHP developer. And the challenge that the naysayers have is that their whole angle of presenting Trongate as the works of a bungling idiot who says the word bullshit a lot, that's not really going to give you too much mileage, because it turns out there are a growing number of developers, I call them PHP refugees, who agree with me. They agree. They don't like PSR4 autoloading. They don't like self-appointed governing bodies like PHP Fig. They don't like frequent rewrites. Like me, they see a release schedule of we're going to have a new version every 6 months. They see that as built-in obsolescence. And like me, and by the way, like Rasmus Lerdorf, the creator of PHP, they agree that templating engines for a templating engine are rather stupid. At Shift, which was a big IT conference in 2019, the creator of PHP, and I've got a picture of this, he's standing like this, and he's Senate time, and then some idiot built a templating engine for my templating engine. He actually says, the creator of PHP, my greatest failure came when they started building templating engines for my templating engine. And so, as much as I like the idea, somebody said Trongate's the temple OS of PHP. Well, I love that, and I consider that a huge compliment. But it's not accurate, because PHP is not the David Connolly Roadshow. We have somebody on board who has contributed, and I probably shouldn't give any names, but we have a former AWS engineer on board. We have another contributor who owned one of the largest computer manufacturing companies in Europe. Hello, Stephen. An organisation that was responsible for billions, with a B, lines of code. Just on the live stream there, we had a visit from Jason. He has recently been employed by NASA. You see, unfortunately for the naysayers, this is not the David Connolly Roadshow. We are an entire legion of developers, many of whom, by the way, have far more experience, far better track records than me. And we take the advice of Steve Jobs and the gang. We think different. We think different. We disagree. That should not be taken as being an attack on anyone's integrity or their abilities as a developer or anything like that. It's not. It's just that we have an alternative opinion. On what? On everything. Everything. The naysayers would do well to come to terms with the idea that there's going to be an alternative way of doing PHP soon. A way that is measurably faster, that is measurably more stable, and measurably more secure. They're gonna have to just come to terms with that. Similarly, us from our end are gonna have to come to terms with the fact that we're never gonna have a multitude of Laravel developers switching to Trongate, or Symfony developers. It ain't gonna happen. And it's not gonna happen because In order for them to do that, they would have to come to terms with the idea that everything they've been doing is bullshit. I mean, everything is bullshit that they've been doing. It's like back in the early UFC days, I remember the first event and they had a karate guy going against a boxer and this and that. Jiu-jitsu beat everybody. And bizarrely, and at the other end of the spectrum, karate did terribly badly, unfortunately. Turns out that karate doesn't really work in that particular arena. But the karate guys did not all suddenly burn their white costumes and say, we're learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. No, they headed off. Do you think they're going to suddenly proclaim everything we've been doing is wrong? Of course they're not. And good luck to them. And it's exactly the same thing here. Our target demographic is certainly not Laravel developers, Symfony developers, or even CodeIgniter developers. I mean, CodeIgniter, I think we're now moving into 7 years since the CodeIgniter homepage was updated. The situation is so ridiculous that I have to remind people that is dead is not a part of the framework name. Because every time people mention CodeIgniter, they say CodeIgniter's dead. And it is actually. So, I think that anybody, when I watched that podcast, there was a moment, and I watched it about 2:30 in the morning, and I had been up since 4:30 in the morning. What can I tell you? I have problems sleeping. And there was a part of me that was tempted to say, okay, I'll come on the show. Let's give names and addresses of people whom we have worked for. Let's provide a list of companies, maybe say companies listed on the Dow Jones who use stuff that we've written. And I'll let you three guys combine your CVs and put that against mine, and let's talk track records. There was a part of me that was tempted to do that. But then I realised that this would not only be futile, it would just be pointless. Because we're not going to convert any of them. They've just had a micro framework. A framework that gives you nothing. We have a big giant framework. It ain't micro. Our framework has everything. And we are whooping the micro frameworks with numbers that are ridiculous. I said to the guy who did the benchmarks, he says, do you want me to get it so we can strip it down and we'll make it even faster? We can get the Lockheed, the thing that breaks the sound barrier. I said, no, don't do it. Leave it. He said, why? I said, because if we do that, they won't believe it. People won't believe it. So just make it fully loaded, connect to the database and everything. Just let them have that. It's fine. Just leave it. We're not going to win this thing by benchmarks anyway. Just leave it. And thanks, by the way, to Adam Spencer for those incredible benchmarks. So that's the way we are. Now, I'm going to tell you how I'm pretty sure Trongate's faster than Falcon. And I absolutely confess that I don't know much about Falcon. I did a head-to-head. Productivity-wise, I'm beating it. But we're now talking about benchmarks. The reason why I think Trongate is faster than Falcon is because even though Falcon was made with C, which is as fast as anything, I think that people are failing to take into account that the thing that really, really brings speed to a framework is the amount of stuff that you load, the overheads. In that regard, let me give you a little taste of my world. A few weeks ago, Simon, the godfather of Speed Coding Academy, he got in touch with me and he said, he's built this IntelliSense app with Jake. It's fantastic and it's for VS Code users for Trongate. It's awesome. You should see it. And Simon, the godfather of speed coding, said to me just a few weeks ago, he said, I'm thinking for this IntelliSense thing, maybe we should add documentation to the framework, and that means they'll have these autocompletes and stuff. Now, when he was talking about documentation, he never meant like normal documentation. He meant the comments, the fancy comments that indicate what each of the classes do. And he was saying, do you think we should add the comments? And before he could even finish the sentence, he said, he says, actually, he says, don't worry about it. I know. Because he gets it. You see, we are playing a game that you've never seen before. My policy is, if I have a choice between doing a little thing where people hover and it tells them what the class does, or they don't have that and we gain an extra 1,000th of a second, I'll take the 1,000th of a second. That's what you're going up against. And the entire framework has been built in this manner. So we're talking about real straight line stuff from point A to point B. I've not looked at Falcon. I don't know how it works. And based on what I've read, I respect Falcon. I mean, Falcon is technically not a PHP framework. You do realise that, right? I'm going up against a C app here. But I'm confident that Trongate will win. And I would welcome any tests in that regard. Because Trongate is the fastest PHP framework in the world. So now I'm going to tell you how Trongate manages to whoop the competition. How that's technically possible. And I'm going to tell you how you can build a framework that's just as fast or even faster. It's quite easy. So, first of all, a framework by definition is just a folder with a bunch of files or maybe other folders that help you to get stuff done. So you can build a folder today with maybe a little include statement, .php or something, and that's a framework. And you've just won. Congratulations. Now, obviously, I don't think that quite meets the criterion required for a meaningful framework. But if we're talking about a framework that does something meaningful, here's how you beat Trongate, or at least here's how you get up to those levels. I'm telling you what's underneath the magician's hat, okay? I'm inviting you to copy me. Like, here it is. And if the other framework makers take this advice, Trongate becomes irrelevant overnight. So the way that you beat Trongate, or the way that you get up to those levels, is very simple. You stop using PSR4 autoloading. That's it. That's all you have to do. You just stop using PSR4 autoloading. If the other leading frameworks took that advice, overnight, Trongate would become a Me Too framework. Because immediately they would become 20 times faster. The thing is, there appears to be no prospect of them doing this. Because to do so would mean defying the requests of their unelected overlords. I'm speaking about that self-appointed governing body by the name of PHP Fig. In order for them to come up and live in the fast lane with us, they would have to say to PHP Fig, see you later. We're not using any more of that bullshit. Bye! And I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they've got the nerve. That is why, technically, Trongate is the fastest framework. Now, let me show you. Fastest PHP framework. Let me show you a little bit of the docs that has not yet been published here, and I think it really spells this out. If you could look at the screen for a minute. Now, I haven't published this yet. I may not publish this, but this is Laravel. All of this. This is all the stuff that has to get loaded in order for the basic hello page to work with the latest version of Laravel. There it is. Would you like to see the Trongate equivalent? There's Trongate. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference?